You are live.
All right. The Budget Committee meeting is now open and in session. Members present today, we have Nancy Montgomery to my left. We have Kelly Campbell to my right, myself as well, Kelly Cornett. Natalie Newberry is here as the fiscal officer for the village. And then our mayor is here as well, Dale Cowhall. And then Brian Fott is here taking minutes for us. So up on the agenda first is the meeting minutes from the August 21st meeting. They're in front of you. Take a look at those. And once you have reviewed those, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. Nancy has made the motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 21st. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And Kelly Campbell has seconded that motion. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we targeted 3 items for today's meeting to touch base on and start diving into. Hopefully we have time to make it to those 3 items. I'm not really for sure. Kind of skeptical on that based on the time right now as the last meeting went over. But one of those items is insurance for the village. So the insurance policy that we offer, health insurance that we offer to our employees. Secondly, we wanted to take a look at the income tax formula, how the money is distributed within the funds, and get a better understanding of that. So that was one item as well. And then the HRA, what that looks like for the village. That was something that we wanted to review too as well. So with that said, Natalie, I will give you the option. Which would you like to start on first? I know you have some information for us.
Oh, I just go to insurance. Why not?
Okay. What did you provide for us?
So the Haran packet is that presentation he had, everything printed out. I know he didn't show us scenario 2. I don't even remember what scenario 2 was. That got into the dependent thing, which is why they didn't do it. I went ahead and printed it. So it's in that packet because it was part of the presentation he emailed. But the third page in there is where we're current at, everything yellow.
I know we ended our last meeting just earlier this week after the presentation with Haran. I know all 3 of us needed to digest some information from that meeting because we were looking at how we wanted to move forward in a general census with this year's health insurance policy for the employees. And so Natalie summarized here, it looks like the different options and the benefits and rewards. Since our last meeting, has anyone or does anyone have any additional input or thoughts on how we should be looking at this? I know for myself, I definitely know what I'm thinking as far as implementing change. And I honestly would like to see us not focus on the insurance policy as much this year and kind of keep what we offered last year as far as the plans with I don't even think a 2.5%. I think we should take this year, this is my opinion solely, take this year and educate the employees on what's coming and the why behind it. But then we could potentially, so keep it as it was last year, but we could potentially start revising either the HRA or the payout for employees that don't use our insurance as a way to still stay on track for getting the overall savings up, if you will.
Right, I agree with that.
I do too.
We were talking
their suggestion was 5, 10, and 15%, if you remember, which is crazy numbers. So I think we all agreed on the same thing. Just keep it like it is on what the village is paying, and then educate everybody that it will go up. So somebody has to start paying a little bit more in the future.
On that buy-up plan, Natalie, is that a percentage? I can't remember. That'll automatically change anyway, right? Because they're charged the difference between what we pay for the employee. So there's probably going to be an uptick a little bit there.
Yeah, but we're gonna see a premium increase on both sides
Right.
probably. But whatever the difference is from the base plan to that plan, they would pay
Okay.
100% of the difference.
Buyout plan, or the buyout plan is a separate plan in and of itself. It's priced
Right.
differently
Right.
because it has different deductibles and stuff,
Mhm.
so.
But our agreement there is still the same. They will pay the difference. So in theory, if the buy-up plan goes up for, in price 4.5%, but the other plan is only a 4% increase, again, in theory,
Mhm.
then whomever chooses to go into that buy-up plan, they're taking that cost. They're choosing that cost as well. So there's an option to have, again, no cost out of pocket, but still have that modified plan. And there's an option to buy up if they want that plan that they've had 2 years ago and before. You can still keep that same plan. It's just going to cost you more. Do we think the end goal, though, for sure, is to do away with the buy-up plan?
Yes.
I like the buyout plan because it saves us money. It's,
It doesn't really save us money. It just doesn't cost us anymore. Am I misunderstanding what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
well, it saves us money because we are not having to pay a premium for that person's health care. For
No,
12.
We're choosing to pay the same premium as the one that we're paying 100% for.
They pay the
You mean the
difference.
buy-up plan, not the buyout? Is that what you're saying, the buy-up plan?
The
The buy-up
Okay, I
plan.
thought you said buyout. I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
No, the buy-up plan, we're just making what we pay
Okay.
equal. And if they choose the buy-up plan, since it costs more, they eat that cost. They're
Right.
the ones paying that cost,
Correct.
which we only had 2 employees choose that last year.
Right.
Do we know how often the rates are looked at? Is it every year, like a certain month of each year?
They usually determine that by October of every year for the next following year.
So then, yeah, so basically, they'll come back to us like in probably before October, but sometime around that time frame, and let us know what the finalized cost is, I believe.
Yeah, they start reaching out to companies in September. And then we're always able to make a decision by November. So, December we're holding a meeting, or November we're holding a meeting. So
I think different
By
for
end of
this year,
October?
though, maybe we can work with Haran, and again, if anybody has a better opinion, please share, but work with Haran, and during that November, December time frame, maybe offer 2 to 4 meetings that are all, at some point, the one of the 4 or whatever the number is mandatory for all employees that it has to be all employees.
Can
So
I ask a question and maybe make a point off of that?
Yeah.
So if you're eliminating the buyout plan,
Mhm.
are you implementing a plan where the employees will pay a portion?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's the whole point
Okay,
of the
right, yeah,
education
I
piece.
Right, okay.
And that's where, during those meetings, I think there should be some valid discussion around kind of what the objective is and the why behind it. The why is we're an anomaly. I mean, you can't find a place that truly, I mean, you heard it the other day, you can't count on one hand villages or government entities that still pay 100% of your policy and you have no out of pocket.
Just a little perspective to the public that's listening. Just 15 years ago, the insurance premiums were probably only about $15,000 a month. And now they're approaching $40,000 a month. So it's ever increasing, and I don't see any stoppage in it.
Right. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
No, that was it. The point I was going to make was if there wasn't a significant portion that the employees would have to cover, then you were going to be right back in the same situation with what Dale was saying about how much the insurance rates are increasing. Now, the company I work for, they actually provide an option for 3 different plans. And one of them is very inexpensive. But there's one that some employees couldn't even afford it
Mhm.
at all with the pay that they make. But there are employees who will choose usually that middle one because they already know that that they're going to have a certain amount of healthcare issues and they want to buy up to that certain plan to have the lower deductibles and the lower out of pocket. Because typically what you're probably going to have to find yourself getting into, which a lot of private companies have, or people who go off of their private company plans, is ultimately you're going to have a point where if you want to be able to afford it for your employees, you're going to have a $20,000 deductible. And that's just not sustainable. So you may want to give your employees that option. Okay, you might have a $20,000 deductible if you take this, but it's pretty cheap for you on a monthly basis. But if you know you're probably going to have, maybe you're going to have a baby that year or something, you might want to take this buyout plan. And you almost have to make that a significant investment for the employee to keep they might have to pay, $50 a week. And you hate to do it, but if they want to get that $5,000 deductible, it ends up being worth it in the long run if they know they're going to have medical issues.
Right. Yeah.
And then you throw that third one in there to this is how bad it really could get if this, because the status of the way the insurance is right now. And you show them this, and that middle one becomes, oh, that's sustainable to pay $50 for that. Because if I really want good insurance, it's going to cost me that.
I think that's the benefit of having the mandatory meetings also.
Yeah.
If employees can tell what their normal situation would be.
Right.
Probably wouldn't be bad for someone else in their family to attend those Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The decision makers.
Yeah.
Get your physical before you buy into your insurance plan.
So I think I heard that we're all in agreement as far as at least what we're looking to do this year. So from that standpoint, I almost feel like we can move on from this topic. But Natalie, as you know, and I'm sure if there's any significant change, obviously we can reevaluate. But again, I think I would focus on that employee meeting and make Haran help, and then also provide that education around what's to come. Because I do think that ultimately we're going to do away with the buy-up plan and look at the plan that we have that most employees are taking, and then implementing overtime implementing incremental amounts that they're going to have to pay. I mean, reasonable.
Now, so one of our plan that's in yellow, we hit deductible, just like inpatient, outpatient, those things. You hit your deductible and we pay 0. The employee pays 0%. I know last year we were quoted another dual option, based on a dual option plan where that wasn't the case. It was an 80-20 split after that. Are you still wanting things like that quoted as well? I mean, I don't want to go out to employees and say, hey, it's going to stay exactly the same, and then think that, no, there's nothing after deductible. If there's that potential that there could be something after
No,
deductible.
There's co-pays after the deductible, which is different than
Right.
the co-insurance. So if you go down to that next level, you could incur $73.50 for a single person, maximum out of pocket in a year's time. So, that's the worst case scenario for them. And that's the only reason why I think the buy-up plan has a little bit of, appeal to it, is because you can have potentially less out of pocket.
But we only had
You
two.
want to keep everything the same for a year and then they can, that's okay.
Maybe there'll be more takers for the buy-up plan. Maybe both of them will
Yeah.
get away from it.
I mean, we can do we can do anything, and I'm again one vote here, but I think for this year and this year, only, I think this is an education year. We have to educate the employees of the why and how and what we're looking to do. And just think it needs to be known to them that, hey, this is what we're offering now. It could look very similar to this. We could offer, like Brian was talking about, 3 different types of plans going forward, maybe 2, anything. It's all based on how we get the best value for the employees. And also at the same time, making sure that we're making what they're paying affordable. So, I mean, I think that's the main point that they need to know is we're working hard to make this both a value, give you options, but also not take away from your table, not take away from your pocket as much as possible. So, but we have to. We can't continue to absorb this. Okay. Any other questions there? All right. Next up, mark off insurance.
HRA.
Yeah, I was gonna say, double stamp that with HRA and, the buyout as well, the buyout that we pay for not taking the insurance. I think that's the proper term. Okay, so I know Natalie gave us information the other day as far as,
Paper that looked like this that got passed out.
too many papers.
Did you get it? Okay.
Got it.
The top, and I just went back to 2019. The top is just our health insurance and the cost between the last few years. And then the buyout insurance cost is underneath that. That's what we paid out for that. And then
Before you go further, could you give us again the numbers for a single person buyout versus a family buyout?
2,500 individual
Uh-huh.
and 5,000 family.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. In 2021, I had to make notes because we had 2 people join the buyout mid-year when they on like new hires. So that's why it's not a round number. But that is what would have been paid out.
Do we prorate that?
Mhm.
Okay.
The HRA cost is underneath that, and that was one thing that I think Nancy, you might have asked, is how many on the buyout specifically had used the HRA. So that information is in there, and then I just listed everybody else as all other. But that's the bold underneath that is the total cost per year. So in 2022, in the HRA that we've paid out was $28,412. But in 2021, it was only $15,280.
That's just gonna depend on the year.
Fluctuate dramatically.
Up and down, yeah.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this last year and I had called around several places. Nobody is anywhere near what we give. And I think that ought to be adjusted. Kelly, what's the county give on that? If you use, like if you're on your wife's insurance, what do they give you for not taking their insurance?
$840 a year.
What an odd amount. I wonder why. So I know the school gives 100. Most schools do about 100.
$70 a month, right?
Yeah.
Portion of the.
I mean, most people are going to pick the insurance that is best for them, the best coverage.
Right.
Well, they only started that kind of payback or whatever you want to call it. That wasn't always the case. It's probably not, maybe 10 years. It wasn't before. It was been nothing forever. So
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of places pay nothing.
right.
A lot of places I talk to, they pay nothing. And I do think most people, especially with families, take the insurance that is the better insurance. They're not
Mhm.
looking at, oh, well, I could save some money here, so I'll do this, even though it's not better insurance or whatever, and take this money. So,
There's also some that, because they've had no expense and this is free, they just go ahead and keep it because it's a dual insurance. They might not necessarily need it or use it, but it's dual insurance. Like, they're not actually sitting down and, okay, is it, do they come out ahead? They've probably not done that. I know a few that probably have really healthy insurance elsewhere, but ours is free.
But they'll do that. If it's free, they're gonna take it even if they don't get anything for it. It
Right.
doesn't matter.
If
You
it's
know,
free.
it's immaterial with that. So,
It's interesting. Okay, so I think I think the HRA, we could look at, and this, again, my opinion, we could look at modifying them, the limits. In my opinion, I think we should keep that as the thank you to the employees as far as right now. Thank you for the majority of you choosing to go to, I guess, the kind of more defined plan that maybe doesn't have all the perks and benefits. Allow them another year to kind of really get used to that plan and have a cushion if there are any overruns. And I say this again as just one opinion. But I think we should look at modifying that buyout plan. I just think that that's,
you're talking about modifying it this year or waiting
Yeah.
until next year?
I think we should
Yeah, I
modify
do.
that.
It's a lot of money we're spending out.
Yeah, I do. But I think, and again, my opinion, let's give them
Yeah.
another strong year with the HRA and to get used to the plans that they chose.
If you reduce the buyout, chances are they may just come back onto our plan. That's
take
the-
that
that's the-
chance.
That's the chance. And, you know,
But
That's
then,
it.
I-
Old number is what we've saved from people on the buyout, not what we've spent.
yeah,
But most people, I mean, really, I would say 99.9, I'd be surprised, especially with a family,
right.
if they're gonna take a cash over the quality of insurance. It's just a big deal today with the cost of healthcare.
I think I would be willing to take that chance, to your point, Dale, just because I agree. Like, if there's a valid, if it's gonna, if the $5,000 is, I mean, a lot of money, but at the same time, I'm sure they're still, on a strong plan, and they're gonna weigh that out. Our employees are very intelligent, been around here a long time. I'm sure they're gonna look at that too and make sure that they're on the right plan.
because our family plan on a yearly basis is around $19,000. And so if they're willing to take 5,000, we've saved 14,000
Right.
on that family.
But I think it also, in the long run, it will allow us, we'll have 1 year to really analyze the real results of who's going to be on our insurance and who isn't. And then maybe, to Brian's point, next year, maybe it is a menu of insurance plans. Maybe there are 3 different plans, that the idea is that we're really trying to give options and allow them to choose, and they're all going to help us save money in the long run.
So is this saying that there was 7 or 6 buyouts in 2022?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I have a lot of problems spending that much money on just a few people. I just think the money ought to be, our decisions ought to be based on I'm sorry, but these wires keep grabbing me. Our concern should be for the majority, if not all, not the few.
And I think that means 35,000 that we spent on buyouts this year. That's more 150% of what we saved last year, with our goal being able to save money overall. Cause I think we saved around 20,000 year over year.
So last year, I would have spent an extra 100,000 though.
Not necessarily. You're saying the savings from employees on buyout?
My minimum savings doesn't count my HRA. So I would add that 98,889 to that 30.
98,889.
That's the minimum. So I took those family plans times 6, minused out the 30, and I would have an additional 98,000. On the very bottom,
Second column,
where it says what we saved, what the village saved, the maximum is if they wouldn't have used any HRA.
If this
So-
happens, what we would have said.
If
if all of those again, and that was in 2022, right?
Yeah.
So if,
Saved 98,000 minimum, but I actually saved 116,000 is what we saved.
but that's an if all 6 of those employees go on our insurance.
If they were on the buyout.
That's with them on the buyout. That's what I saved.
Right, but we don't know that all 6 of those employees actually will choose our insurance.
Right.
So
But we spent $30,000 that we may not have had to spend.
Instead of
So it may
almost
have come out that
130.
we actually
Yes.
saved 30,000, not cost us 98. It could go either way.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's probably, in my opinion, a chance we're willing to take. I'm willing to take
Yeah, I
just
am
to see
too.
what the real, to see who's going to go with us and who isn't, so
Right,
that we can
right.
really get this right going forward.
Look at that, those 6 in 2022, if they would have taken the family plans, that would have cost the village about $130,000.
Mhm.
If they had taken.
Yeah, and so, I mean, having the buyout and get them pay 30,000 to save 100, that's a
But-
pretty good deal.
If they didn't take it,
Mhm.
if they didn't take the village insurance and we didn't do a buyout, we would have saved a lot of money. So it's if, you don't know which way it's going to go.
I'm not arguing, I'm trying to follow the logic. If they went onto our family plan, we know that we're going to spend $130,000 on those 6 or 7, somewhere in that neighborhood. So if you can pay out 30,000 to save 100 and some thousand, that's pretty golden.
So if
But you're saying that they're only taking that other insurance because of the 5,000. And I say, I don't think that's true.
No, they're probably taking it because either their spouse has coverage elsewhere, and then they would like to
And
have
it's
that.
superior coverage,
But
you
it
know.
it may well be, it may not be, I don't know.
And my point is, well, yeah,
And-
I mean, we've all got figures here, so we all know what's.
And all
what.
6, and Natalie, you probably know, and without disclosing, all 6 of those buyouts are all families.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on here.
Yes.
It
Okay.
is on
Yes.
here. She
So-
tells-
So if you, just an example of what I might do if I was in that situation. Let's say my wife had family insurance and I was going on her insurance because I can get $5,000 from here. If that $5,000 is taken away, because this insurance, at least right now, is fully paid for, I may make that decision to come to this insurance as an individual because my wife's insurance now would drop because she would go from a family plan to a parent-child plan, which a lot of times, I mean, what's the difference between, that's the difference of maybe $500 a year, and now that $500 a year will save you $6,000.
Or
Yeah.
or you may just say,
Which you,
But that's, I mean, it's a very logical scenario though. I
well,
mean,
it
it's
is,
still-
but
yeah,
look
it's a very
around what
logical-
everybody else is doing and nobody else is having a problem. The only one different that I found, most places that I called, and I got a lot of villages, they give nothing. Like I say, most of the schools give $100. County gives $840, he said now. The only one I found that was different was Mount Orab. And what they did was pay the difference between the village's payment and the spouse's payment up to a certain limit.
And I'm
Or
not,
maybe that wasn't Mount Orab.
I think
that might
what
have been
you'll
and I'm
Mount-
not a proponent of, making that payment, honestly. I'm just pointing it out
Right.
because if they do that, how much your.
Well, I think we
insurance
all
is.
understand all the scenarios and that. I think we just.
well, I
have to
think you're
make-
almost
decision.
encouraging and enforcing the thought that don't take the buyout, but bring your family plan to us and we'll pay for it. Why do we want that?
No, I don't think it's I think we're
If we
standardizing.
if we reduce the buyout or eliminate it, whatever the case may be, then these employees have no qualms about saying, well, I'm going to bring all the family in on there because we pay so very little for our health care, if anything.
Well, and they
with
may.
Georgetown.
We don't know. You can't make that decision. That's
Well,
a
we've got the
decision.
black and white on here. We know what the savings are from year to year.
Okay, I think we all know.
Yeah, I think we should know.
Yeah, I think we do.
Elliot, what's your opinion?
Well, I'm looking at it because I am an employee. I think we all are.
Mhm.
And I think the $5,000 is a great benefit to have as an employee, to have that option to fall back on. So I'm very impressed, and I like the idea of the 2,500 and the 5,000 staying on the table.
Okay.
And then, like I said, I think if you were to talk to the employees, like get a physical, literal answer from them how they use their insurance, then it may be adjusted, from that. But I don't know. I think it's a very good deal in the what if scenario, like Dale's talking about. I totally agree that on this paper, on this printout, we are saving over $100,000.
If.
Maybe.
I know we're all going to go on this if, but in
Right.
this scenario,
Let's go from 2019 through 2022. Those are actual
solid.
savings. Those
Yeah.
are solids.
right. That's what I'm looking at as well.
Yeah.
So I say we have somebody talk to the employees and see what, they're not going to tell you to take my money away. I'm not saying that.
Well,
But-
and you're not gonna have, you talk to a bunch of employees and you've only had, let's see, 6, 7, or 8 people ever use this. No, sorry, 5 people every year. 5 people, 5 people, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people. Or the other's gonna say, oh yeah, go ahead. So those 5, 6, 7 people can get that, I don't know, that's a fair ask.
Everyone has the same option in front of them. They can take the buyout or they can be on our health insurance. Those that take our health insurance are happy that they have health insurance. Those that take advantage of the buyout, they're happy too because they have health insurance somewhere else. And they're also being rewarded to get off of our dole, basically, to save us money, which is proven each and every year that saves us a bunch of money.
How do we justify spending 50 times more or an infinite amount more than other villages in that?
Who
Why are we
cares?
so
I mean,
different?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're able to do that to save us a bunch of money. If you got that down to say the buyout's $500, they're not going to take that. They're going to come on and say, I want your plan, and I don't have to pay for it.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So when we look at salaries and stuff, we won't compare to other villages or anything. I mean, we always compare to other villages until it's this.
Now, I'm looking at true cost savings, which are
Well,
demonstrated right here on this thing. By paying a little money, we
for
save a
those
heck of a lot.
years, but you don't know for the future.
Yeah, it does for everyone. If we just had one employee take advantage of it, we've saved money because we didn't have to pay $19,000 for a family plan that year. We gave them $5,000, so we saved $14,000.
Okay, now what do we think about people who aren't on our insurance? Well, never mind, that's not this. That's the other, which, yeah, we'll talk
Well,
about
then,
that
I mean,
too.
because I still feel strongly about getting to the real numbers, because at some point we're going to be there. And so what about as part of the educational sessions that you're trying to provide as much information? I mean, they don't have to disclose with us, but really talk to these employees. We're changing our plans going forward. There's going to be different employees. The end goal is that employees are going to share in some of the expense. If that were to be, are you going to be, basically you want to know, are they looking at their spouse's plan or our plan? And of course, there's not concrete. A lot of it's going to come down the pricing, but we need an idea.
I wonder if we could do some kind of a survey, an anonymous survey.
Yeah, something like that to
Rather
really.
than somebody talking to them and,
How many permanent, not permanent, but full-time, what's just for example, last year you have 6 buyouts that you paid for. How many did you not pay for? How many people took the insurance? Is it a 30 to,
Well, 32 is all to have altogether that's eligible. So just 7 off, well, that's this year, 6 off of that for last year. So
okay,
what's that,
so-
26?
yeah, so 26.
And I'm not necessarily saying doing away with it altogether. I think we just need to get in line with what
And make
the rest of the world's
incremental
doing.
progress toward that. I mean, we definitely have to make incremental progress. We're paying
Right.
$5,000 is, I mean, really, and I get it, that you're saying to see. Eventually,
To pay $35,000 that saves you $131,000?
If,
Well, let's go back to the real numbers in 2022. We spent 30,000 and we saved $116,000.
but you don't know how many of them would have taken the other insurance anyway.
Well, they had the
See-
option to take it.
But maybe they wanted their spouse's insurance because it was so much better. That you can't go by that. But it's okay. We'll do a survey or something, see
Additionally-
how people think.
additionally, there's going to be migration just from the numbers to
Yeah.
the 32 people that are on our insurance. There's additionally going to be migration. At some point, the comparisons may not compare, and it may make sense for them to jump ship and go to their spouse's employer and not use us. So, I mean, it's going to happen, migration at some point, but we've got to get some real numbers to go off of to make sure that as we move forward.
Well, I sell group health insurance and the plans we have now are very, very competitive.
Mhm.
We have everything's a high deductible health plan and the buy-up was a $3,000 deductible. That's pretty sweet. And the regular one is 5,000. That's pretty normal for the mill. So if you reduce the numbers of buyout dollars, then people are going to say, well, is that worth it to have the buyout, or do I get a free health plan for me and my family and not have to worry about that? I mean, what we want to do is, I hate to say it, I wish everyone would take the buyout plan. That would be the best savings for everybody.
How is it dispersed? How's it paid out? Is it a bonus? Is it added onto the check? Is it taxed?
It's an individual check at the first payroll in the new year. So everybody for 2023, because you have to be on the plan the entire year. So that first payroll in 24, then anybody that was on the buyout the whole year will get their check. If they were on partial, they'll get whatever the partial is. But it's not retirement eligible, but it is taxable. Absolutely.
They still do this or not, but I can remember in the past, places would say you have to take insurance that your spouse, you have to take another insurance if you have that available.
There are some that would say that if your spouse has better coverage than we have, you should be taking hers or his.
Well, no, this was written in a policy that if you have access to another health insurance, you have to take it.
The employee?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
I
sure.
actually worked for a company.
But you know
that-
what you can
Yeah.
do? You can disenroll your spouse and have that spouse come on ours and we pick up even more.
Well, yeah, but I was just asking about, do they still do that?
I've not heard of that one, but I've heard of which I think is maybe their scenario too, a little bit. If your spouse is eligible to get insurance elsewhere, they have to go on it. We could be a secondary
Mhm.
because it would still keep our claims lower, but they have to go primary on their own.
I've had both of those options in a previous employer where if you had a spouse that had access to insurance, you had to go on theirs. If for some reason you did not, you paid a fee above the premium. Yeah, but not that that's what, I mean, that's
Oh,
not
but
anything
yeah.
in my sight line for the village,
Yeah,
but
there's the
yeah.
other side of it too.
Mhm.
I can see employees also out of our 32 that we have. Obviously not all of them, because if you're individual, you're probably, if you're older, that's where you're at. But I think once we start having to pay a portion of our premium and we're contributing on that premium, they might say, okay, now it is time to look at our spouse.
Right, the
What plans
migration,
do we have?
right.
Give me the buyout because this is actually better. And that helps pay for the premium over here.
Yeah, the migration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can we all at least agree on the fact that we'll task Natalie with doing a deeper dive, possibly with,
Well, I'd rather do a survey, like an
Yeah.
anonymous survey than have
I
Natalie
think that
do
would
it.
be, I think, could we do like a Survey Monkey or something to
Yeah.
populate some information from the employees as a whole?
Will they participate? I mean,
I hope they would if we if we
me
provided the
see.
leadership that we really needed this to help going forward.
I wonder if Haran could send out a survey.
Yeah.
Let me get with Joe and
Yes.
But I mean, maybe Dale, even coming from your chair, maybe something and, providing that leadership, like we really need this information. It helps us to build the footprint for the insurance going
But just the
forward.
survey, no.
I mean, we
Trying
have to
to
do
push
form
one
fire
way or the
every
other.
year, so I'm wondering even if there's something in form fire that we can add on to that. You have to do it to complete it. We don't see form fire as the employer. Only the ones that we help log in and hold their login information, but other than that, they're gonna sit at the computer and do the rest, so let me get with them and see. I
Okay.
don't see why not. Somehow I think we can do it anonymous.
So are we at least all in agreement? Let's just keep the buyout as is, keep the HRA as is. But this year, the 100% effort needs to be behind education with all employees, having those mandatory meetings, Natalie, whatever that looks like, but making sure all employees participate in some form of a mandatory meeting to really get that.
I think where the savings can be had more readily is having the employees start to participate in the payment of the premium.
Okay, moving on. Natalie, you provided us some information around the Georgetown income tax breakdown, I believe. Can you help me? Where is that? Is it this one? Okay. And I'm looking here, this hasn't changed. We have not changed the income tax breakdown for many years, right? It's been, which I believe is, that's through council, right? We change it.
Ordinance, our income tax ordinance has
Okay.
the allocation breakdown in it.
Mhm.
Okay. So, let's see.
This was probably put together by former administrators and former fiscal officers, I would imagine. And with the inputs, I guess, probably from some of the entities that are being funded.
I know one of the things that had got brought up before was, Otto Heber did our study for the fire EMS levy. No, just budget committee. He did that study and we said, we don't remember what number he used for the capital of what he planned out in that. I went back and I looked, and he did 20,000 throughout the rest of the years that he did as an estimate. And we are getting over that now. Or at least we were in 19 on, but
So, I mean, given the fact that you deal with the numbers every day, can you give me an opinion of these breakdowns from your chair? Is there any, like,
I
what's your
think
thoughts?
maybe originally that it started with police and street, or street and police, however you want to look at that. And I think we've taken, obviously we've gotten some to go to the park and some to go to the fire. I do think our street's going to need more though. I mean, if we're going to continue to want to do paving, more than just, hey, one major project. I don't even know how really much you could call it major. $200,000 going into the street. It's not a very big project when you got to still pay salaries and supplies and culverts and line striping, and there's a lot of other expenses. They're not nowhere near what like a transformer is, but there are, things are expensive too on the street side.
Do you remember what we paid for free soil paving last year?
Mm-mm.
I mean, it took up all the paving dollars.
Won't show me.
I was thinking it was close
No.
to 200 or something like that.
I can't remember, Dale.
But we are in a situation where all of our secondary streets need attention,
Mm-hmm.
and the tertiaries haven't had attention in a long time either.
No.
So where would that come from, in your opinion, Natalie?
Out of this breakdown, or
Mhm.
just like if we don't touch the breakdown?
I mean, if we touch the breakdown.
If you massage these numbers.
Yeah,
at
if
the
you were to
bottom.
massage them from your perspective.
I think it would be fine to put a max on the fire capital. And let the additional go back to street. Even just an arbitrary number, what he did of the 20, looking at last year, I realize it's only another $19,000 going to street. But other than, the little bit of state money that we would get in from the state, there's not, you can come on in. The only other thing we can control is our income tax fund for funds to go to the street. When we did our 0.5% increase, it went to the general fund, which, you can see the police difference, the negative. So we know we're eating into our additional that we're bringing in anyways. The general fund can help any fund out. It could be as simple as saying, okay, we're not going to change our percentage, but the general fund is going to have to give the street fund X amount of money. That's an option.
So we're probably running out of time, unfortunately, to discuss this. So maybe we should look at, do we want to go ahead and set our next meeting, or do we have one that's already on the calendar?
We don't have another one until like October, so
I don't think I think
That's
that's
not
too far
close
out.
enough.
I did too.
yeah.
Yeah, so we are in August, late August, so maybe something in September, if everybody could take a look at their calendars. Any suggestions? Kelly, I know you've got a more restricted schedule. What would work for your schedule for a September meeting? And we also have fair in September too.
Do the Monday, the 11th.
What time am I saying? Later afternoon?
I think there's a foundation meeting in here at 4:30.
Okay.
They don't meet very long though, so, we'd probably
You
be
want
fine
to
with,
do a 6?
I was getting ready to say, it'd probably
Clock
be
on
done
the
by
11th.
5:30 if you want to go earlier.
What time? 6? Works for me.
Okay, so 6 PM on 9/11. Okay, definitely Natalie, we want a breakdown on the street fund and the water fund, kind of what we've been talking about as far as what's going on with those two funds and the issues as you see them. How do we want to just put this on the agenda, the income tax breakdown?
Yeah.
Next meeting and kind of dive in. Anything that you guys want to see from Natalie that she can pull for us? Any suggestions, Natalie, of reporting that you might pull for us to help us kind of digest that better? Or,
I'll just see what I can get.
okay,
I'm sure there's all kinds I can get for.
okay. And then,
I'll try to break down the revenue a little bit more, especially for the street.
have we received that report yet from Huber on the police portion?
No.
Okay, so that probably won't be
I
back.
can-
Because we've got to put that on our agenda to really dive into the
Yeah.
levy. Why don't we do this?
Dale, have you heard anything from him? Okay. And I
First-
haven't been asked for anything additional, so.
For sake of time, and so everybody can get a few minutes, next meeting, we will be talking about the water and street fund. And we will come back to the income tax formula. And anything else at that point in time that's pertinent. All right, guys, next meeting, 9/11 at 6 PM. With that said, if there's nothing else to come before this committee, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Nancy has made the motion to adjourn this meeting. Is there a second? Seconded by Kelly Campbell. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned.
fine. I
didn't
thought,
think
geez,
that
I
about
spread out all my stuff.